Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Week 11 edition of the Matt Willson Weekly Kickoff Show. I'm Mike Daggs. He's Gerald Smith. Gerald, Week 10 in the books. There was a ton of close games in Week 10, some back-and-forth games, some ones that came down to the wire. It was an exciting week.
If anybody watched the week of SFL action, this past week was it, because so many close games, and it was all different teams from different records and everything else, right? It was almost unpredictable in a way. Close games that I don't think we've seen in a bulk form as what we had last week. So if you're watching SFL, last week was the time to see such competitive action.
Absolutely, yeah. So if this is the very first time you've ever tuned into the SFL and it's this show right now, finish watching the show. But, but then go back and watch Week 10, then get into Week 11. You don't want to miss
After tonight's games. Do that after tonight's games.
Yeah.
There you go.
Because we got some games coming up.
We sure do.
You know what we should do? We should break down that schedule of games that we got this week.
Why not?
Because we've got games starting in just about 30 minutes' time. Starting with, at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Denver at Florida. We've got Colin Northrup and Anthony Ellison, because from what I'm told, Rick Northrup is out doing some maintenance on the Rick meter and was not available this week.
I guess sometimes the Rick meter needs repairing because it's flopping back and forth and everything else. Maybe Anthony brought I'd say Tony. Maybe he's got the Tony meter ready. So I don't know if he goes by Tony or not, but maybe he can bring the Tony meter out for some play.
We have been known for assigning nicknames, so
there you go.
It's called
Tony E. He got it.
Tony E with the Tony meter. Anyway, at 8:15 p.m. we got Arizona at Portland. Mark Lopez and Brett Solberg, the Canadian crew.
Yeah, the Canadian boys.
On the call. That completes our Friday night slate. We'll be back Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Canton at Motor City. A couple teams that have had some very different seasons. Canton looks almost unstoppable. Motor City still trying to get their footing, it seems. Cameron Duty and John Warren on the call. Be interesting to see if Motor City can put up a fight at home.
And we're going to see a lot of teams that struggled against Canton. Maybe they can do something no other team has.
Who knows? Who knows? 6:45, we've got Baltimore at Atlanta. Gerald and I will be calling that one, our first broadcast of the week, because we're not calling any games tonight. But we're just going to be sitting back and enjoying them.
Well, why not?
So
it's about time. Instead of watching my team lose on a Friday night.
Yeah. I wouldn't know. I watched my team win.
Yeah, on that same Friday
although
night.
I do remember watching them lose on a Friday night to a certain Green Horse team.
That was on a Monday night, but that's cool.
Oh, that's right. I can't keep my straight.
You want to forget that day.
It was so traumatic. I tried to
too.
block it in my memory. Yeah, whatever. Don't pet the horse. That's just weird. So then we've got, we're doing a doubleheader that night, though, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back on the air. We got to fly on that supersonic Concorde jet that Cam's got. It's all black with gold trim and SFL logo on it.
Look, the hair will get you anything you want. And he has that nice hair, and he's turned it into a Concorde jet somehow.
Bryant Dynasty's trying to teach him how to do a hair flip, but it's just a little curl that kind of flops.
Yeah, man, when you're Superman, you can get what you want.
You do whatever
and
you
he's
want
got
to do. Yeah, absolutely. Fort Worth at Indianapolis. Once we land in Indy, we'll get that game going. We're going to break that one down just a little bit of time. 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time, another game we're going to break down. Alamo City at Tulsa. We got Brandon Walters and Double M7, Mickey Malillo on the call. Mickey and Jacob Clear just had a broadcast last week. Two of them did phenomenal in that broadcast.
Great call.
Looking forward to hearing Double M7 in the booth again, and Brandon Walters as well. And that's our Saturday slate. On Sunday, 6:30 Eastern Time, kick back off Vancouver at DC. Speaking of Jacob Clear, his first of two broadcasts this weekend. Jacob Clear, Mike O'Neill, Vancouver, and DC. Yeah,
Jacob Clear has been phenomenal this season, and Mike O'Neill has been another one who's been a sneaky, pleasant surprise addition to the broadcast group.
Him and Chris Curtis did a great job on that Mexico City-Houston game, which if you missed that, that's one of the ones we're talking about in Week 10. I'm not just saying it because of the affiliation with the Aztecs. That was a great game of football.
It was.
Damon Simeon might disagree, but, sorry, Damon. It is what it is. Carolina at Louisiana, 6:45 p.m. Tyler Falk and Cameron Duty. Cameron back in the analyst spot this week.
That's where we want him. When he does the play-by-play, we tend to lose. I love you, Cameron, but I can't have you calling play-by-play.
So I'm trying him in the analyst spot to see if maybe that fixes your jinx. We'll see.
Do it for us, Tyler.
We'll see.
Talk us up.
9 p.m. on Sunday, Los Angeles at San Diego. We got Tyler Falk again. He's also doing a doubleheader for us this weekend, and Alex West calling that one. And at 9:15 p.m., Jacksonville at Seattle, Jacob Clear. Another doubleheader. along with Eddie Gage. You're excited about this broadcast.
I am very excited about it. You got the Aussie and his accent, what he brings to play-by-play, and you got Eddie Gage. Everybody knows the personality that Eddie Gage brings to a broadcast from an analyst standpoint. Now, I wonder, they got two things that I know Eddie wants his pick six.
He does.
And I want to know if, Jacob actually went there and said, hey, look, you really can't on the vaccine stuff. Say, hey, I don't think they make saddles for kangaroos.
That's what he said.
But I think
he's wrong.
I think he's wrong too.
I can picture it. I can visualize a kangaroo with a little saddle. It'd kind of be like a horse saddle, but angled a little more with the seat a little flatter, And
you go in the local general store. Says, I'll take your best kangaroo saddle, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Why not?
Genuine leather.
There you go.
If they don't exist, I think it's another side business we could start up.
Side gig. I'm
Anywho,
all about it.
We got the Monday Night Spectacular, 8:15 p.m. on Monday, March 25th. We've got Phil and Mike on the call. They had their first ever broadcast last week, I guess, Phil and Mike.
And they're already famous. They just have one names. No last names needed.
Just Phil and Mike.
Phil and Mike. It's like Madonna and Britney or whoever else you want to say. Or Taylor.
Yeah.
No, it's Taylor Swift. She's not that famous.
Tay-Tay. I think she's pretty famous.
There you go, Tay-Tay.
Yeah,
That's
Tay-Tay.
it. Phil and Mike.
Yeah, Phil and Mike. They sound weirdly like Cameron Irvine and Charles Doherty, but they just kept going by
But
Phil
are
and
they
Mike.
as handsome as they can be?
I don't know. They weren't on camera. We'll have to see.
That's
Something
true.
to find out. We also got the playoff schedule that was released just yesterday, so we'll roll through that real quick. Wild Card Weekend starts on Saturday, April 20th, extends into Sunday the 21st. The quarterfinals will be Saturday the 27th of April and Sunday the 28th. The semifinals, pair of games on Saturday, May 4th. And then the championship game, Season 22 SFL Championship, Saturday, May 11th. Mark those dates down. You're not going to want to miss any of those games. They're all going to be great.
Yep. I thought playoffs are always awesome.
They're always
always
Love
great.
Them. The SFL Minor League brings back Season 9 that same championship weekend. So that'll get started on Friday, May 10th. The day right before the championship, and games will rotate on Wednesday nights and Friday nights all the way from May 10th through June 21st.
Let the nicknames begin. That's
Absolutely.
where nicknames
That's
are
where
born
they're
during the
born.
minor leagues. Yep,
that's where they're born. We love doing those minor league games.
That's true.
Letting things just kind of fly off the rails just a little bit. But hey, let's start talking about the games this weekend, because we've got Week 11 SFL action just moments away. Let's start out by talking about one of the games that's coming up this Saturday, Alamo City at Tulsa. It's a pair of teams that have very similar records. They're both coming off of wins. They're both in very hotly contested divisions right now. Alamo City, they're currently in third place in the South. And they've got the same record, though, as Houston at 5-4, who's in second place, and Fort Worth is at 6-3 in first. So just a game separates them. And meanwhile, in fourth and fifth are our beloved teams, but not by much. I mean, really, literally any team, any of our teams could still take that number one spot. So it's a very tightly contested division, always is in the South. Tulsa, meanwhile, they're in the Central Division. They're in second place. They have 4 wins, but you know who else has 4 wins? Indianapolis and Arizona, who's in the same division. So there's a lot on the line playoff-wise, even starting this weekend for both of these teams in their division. That game will be on Saturday. Why don't we start talking about that one with Alamo City's offense? They're winners of 3 straight. Talk about it.
And they've done so with winning those three straight that they have with the really good quarterback play from Ace Finnick, who was number 1 in QBR in the league, along with number 2 in passing yards in the SFL, and he does so with the help of Yayo Montana and Vin Calia at the wide receiver position, who both have over 40 receptions each on the season, and combined they have over 1,400 yards receiving. So that's been a really huge success to them, and their offense also has the fewest turnovers in the league,
which is crucial,
with 9 turnovers all season long. It's been really, really key to their success on offense. So, and that's how they're able to put up points and hold on to the ball and able to win the games. And actually, like I said, them winning 3 straight. They beat us last week. Ace Finnick threw all over the place. We couldn't stop Calia or Yale Montana. So they've actually done really, really good things like that over the course of this winning streak they've had.
And that defense, they're no slouch either. Right? Let's even just start with that front four. Their defensive line, them alone are responsible for 17 sacks, but the team as a whole has even more than that.
Yeah, so, and they have 25 total sacks on the season, which is the SFL best, right? So they know how to, pressure the quarterback and force the opponent to get into tough situations, right? So look, and I do think it's led by Jay Mark, right, who continues his potential Defensive Player of the Year campaign. He's my defensive player right now. If I had to vote right now, he's my Defensive Player of the Year right now with his SFL leading 11 pass defenses and 5 interceptions on the season. He's matching the league-leading DBs. There's a couple of DBs across the league that also have 5 interceptions, but he's on par with them from the linebacker position. And that's to go along with his 58 total tackles he has on the season, too. So they're playing really, really well right now, and they're starting to look like they looked last season when they won a ton of games. And I do believe they were ranked, I think it was second or third heading into the playoffs. Yeah,
absolutely. So let's talk about Tulsa and their offense. You mentioned Yayo Montana and Vin Kelly and how, receiving-wise, they're doing a great job for Alamo City. But if we're going to be talking about elite receivers, you cannot have that conversation and not mention Tulsa receiver Gabriel Manning. The Gabriel Manning Show continues its tour on Saturday.
Yeah, and look, and we've said it before. If Gabriel Manning goes off, Tulsa is extremely successful, and they have been that way. And quarterback Michael Brown has thrown to Gabriel Manning more than double any of his other receivers, and that's also in receptions and targets, right? So, and it actually paid off because Manning leads the league, the SFL, in receptions. Receiving yards. He has over 1,100 yards on the season alone. Himself. And we actually just talked about Vin Kelly and Yale Montana have 1,400 combined.
Between the two.
Right. So he has 1,100 all on his own. So, and Michael Brown is also number 2 in TDs with 15 in the league. He's number 3 in passing yards, just behind Ace Finnick. The only problem I think that they have is that they can be one-dimensional, and Phoenix Jones like nobody else does, right? So, Phoenix Jones is a guy that actually can take over a game. If they get him more involved, they can probably be a bit more balanced and maybe not become a little bit one-dimensional. And who knows, maybe Gabriel Manning goes way off, and produces a lot more if they're able to get that run game going, because they're going to have a defense that got to start focusing on that run game a little more.
Yeah, if a defense needs to account for the run, then it's going to open up the pass. I mean, that's just football 101. Speaking of defense, the defense for Tulsa is where they have struggled at times this season. This was cost them some games. They give up a lot of points. They're averaging 26 points per game allowed, and if you're forcing your offense to have to outscore that each week, it's not a recipe for success.
And it's not real good because they actually rank in the bottom quarter of the league in all defensive categories. But they also turn a quarter of their interceptions they get on defense into touchdowns. So I believe they have 3 touchdowns on defense, so they've gotten 12 interceptions on the defense, but they're able to turn those into points. And we actually called a game all that not long ago where they ended up hitting like 2 of them in one game. We're turning for touchdowns. So they're in those situations they're able to make the most of those turnovers than more than any other team in the league has to this point. So, but if that's what they got to do, they may have to force those turnovers to get the ball back to their offense that we know can put up a lot of points at times. So we're going to see.
Yeah, we'll see on Saturday night what they're able to do and who's going to get that victory. Let's talk about another Saturday night matchup, one that we're going to call Fort Worth at Indianapolis. This is another South versus Central matchup, but this time between the number 1 and number 3 teams in those divisions. But like we talked about, not much separates the top from the bottom in those divisions. Fort Worth, they convincingly rebounded last week with a big win over Charleston. They had a sizable loss the week before to San Diego. So, they fixed whatever went wrong there, came back, and won with a vengeance.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Indianapolis, on the other hand, they've been in a lot of close games this season. They've had a few games that were one score, and some of those have resulted in wins. Some of them have resulted in losses. So, just for example, last week they lost to Vancouver by 3 points. So, it's another Saturday night matchup with huge playoff implications, or at least divisional rankings, I should say, for both of these teams in both of these divisions. We'll start off by talking about the Fort Worth Toros and their offense.
Yeah, and if look out SFL, The Bulls are on parade. I'm going to do these horns right here. The Bulls are on parade. And those of you who are Rock fans know Rage Against the Machine, that's a reference to them. The Bulls are on parade.
Yep.
They shut down the hottest team we talked about last week, which was my hottest team in SFL, in the Charleston Predators.
Yep.
Last week, they shut them down in dominating fashion last week, right? Dunhill threw for 4 touchdowns. 3 of those touchdowns went to Stephen Hacker, who is also number 1 in touchdowns in the league. It's kind of hard to say. I know the receivers are going to best Gabriel Manning, but he's doing it right now in the touchdown category. And they brought to that blowout party, I'm going to call it a blowout party, tons of bacon. Threw it in the pan, had it sizzle, because J.C. Bacon went off for 150 yards on the ground. They have the top 4 offense in the SFL. They are number 3 in points, averaging over 27 points per game. This was the complete performance, that in my opinion, the SFL did not want to see. The rest of the, teams in the league did not want to see this type of performance from them, because they finally hit their stride. Even with the loss last week, they finally hit their stride and is able to show what they can do offensively. They are extremely dangerous offensively if they can stay this consistent going forward. And
their defense is pretty good and pretty consistent as well. Number 6 defense in total yards allowed. Talk about that defense.
Yeah, and they also have they're number 6 on third down, so they're able to get off the field on third downs. The defense is looking more and more like last season's defense, especially in these games where they're actually clicking on all cylinders. Right, they're very tough to score points on as well. Right, like I said, and they're looking more and more like last season's defense. And in my opinion, if they are able to play consistently, I'm in the South Division just as you are. I think they're almost a lock. If they can play as consistent as they did last week, going forward on both sides of the ball, they could potentially lock up the South Division.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about what Indy can do, with their offense. They've been up and down all season. They've had some flashes, though, of some top-tier play. Talk about that offense.
Yeah, and they lost on the last-second field goal last week, but they played well. Yeah. Colin Pierce is one of the most mistake-free quarterbacks in the league, and he's only had 6 interceptions on the season among starting and he leads among starting quarterbacks. Yeah. So him only throwing 6 interceptions is really good, and that's how you're able to win games. You don't turn the ball over and give it to your opponent. You're able to kind of keep your offense on the field and have a chance to score. Right? They are starting to find their stride offensively, but I still think that they must improve on third down. They're ranked in the bottom, the bottom tier of converting their third downs. They're ranked 20th in the league on third down on offense, and they're going to have to figure out how to get the running game open up, because we haven't been able to see them, have that, high passing offense that they had from a couple of seasons ago. And I really do think it starts with the run game. If they're able to get the run game going, I think that passing game is going to open up for them on offense to be able to put more points on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really what it's been for them so far is the defense, keeping them in ball games. Top 10 defense across the board. Talk about that.
Yeah, and they are number 2 in points per game, right? And I think the only team that's better than them is the Canton Classics. Yeah. They're number 2 in points allowed per game. They're number 3 in sacks, and they're number 1 in tackles for losses. And it's all led by, I'm going to call him the office manager, and linebacker Adam Wiseman. Why I call him office manager? Because he continues.
I was going to ask. Yeah.
Because he continues to set up his own offense in the opposing backfield. He leads the league in tackles for losses with 26.
Right.
No other even player, I don't think, is even really close to that right now.
And arguably, a TFL is just as good as a sack.
Yeah, without doubt. And most times it's in a non-first down type of situation, right? They're getting those kind of losses. So, look, and this is where I think they can, get an edge on Fort Worth by applying pressure, being able to shut down a J.C. Bacon, put pressure on Marcus Dunhill and stuff like that, right? So it gives, their offense the ball back, even though they are struggling. If they're able to produce like that and get the ball back, it puts the ball back into their offense, and maybe their offense can score some points when it matters.
Yeah, well, we'll find out on Saturday. That game is one that we're going to be calling, so we'll get a front row seat. Well, I guess it's not a front row seat because the booth's at the top of all the. We actually have like the worst seat in the entire stadium.
I have no idea. Maybe somebody needs to talk about that. It's like the old thing. Most times there's no heating or cooling. We got to bring on heaters. Yeah.
Well.
And put all kind of crazy knit hats on. I don't have much hair, so I need all the protection I can get.
The whole SFL budget went towards that supersonic jet. So the last functioning Concorde in the world, I believe.
Yeah.
So there's no
Cameron Irvine has it.
There's no budget for heaters.
It's
or
all
hats. You guys bring your own hat.
It's all getting the fuel for us to go from one game to the other, I guess.
Hey, let's talk about some Friday night games. I've got a couple of games kicking off just about 10 minutes from now, getting the first one started, and about 25 minutes from now, we'll get this one going. Arizona at Portland. Portland, they're 2-6 right now. And though they're technically not eliminated from the playoffs yet, they are on the brink. So this is a big game for them tonight. The leader in the Pacific is Vancouver. They've got 5 wins. Portland being 2-6 right now, 4 games remaining. Technically, they could end up 6-6. Technically, the other teams in their division could lose the rest of their games. So there's a path to actually winning the division, and then that would get them in the playoffs. But it's a difficult path. So they'd have to win tonight. But they'd also have the opportunity to play spoiler throughout the rest of the season. And regardless of what path they end up taking, their players want to win games.
Oh,
without
without
a
a
doubt.
doubt.
What.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Whether it actually means playoffs or whether it just means tonight.
And
They
that's
wanna
one
win
thing.
those
Players
games.
across the league in SFL, they have a ton of pride. You'll never see a team quit or do anything. Tons of pride here. That's what makes the SFL so beautiful to watch week in, week out.
That's what makes it so exciting. Absolutely. Arizona, on the other hand, they actually still have an opportunity not only to win their division, they have an opportunity to get a winning record. But it all starts tonight as they have to win this game. They have to win out if they want to get that winning record. And then they have a really big matchup next week against division leader Minnesota, who only has 2 losses on the season. So, but first things first, they got to take care of business on the road in Portland tonight. And
hey, how's it going?
Struggled on the road.
Good,
we'll break
Anthony.
that one
How are
down.
you?
Let's start with talking
Doing
about
good.
their offense. They started off 3-1, but then things kind of changed.
Yeah, it changed quite a bit. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games.
Yeah.
They've been shut out twice this season. I think there's only 2 teams, they're one of them, that has been shut out this season, and they've got shut out twice.
Both on the road.
Yeah, and both of them were on the road. Offense, the offense can look great at times, but uncharacteristically, they lose their way. Quarterback Ashley Jackson traditionally has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in seasons past. Last few seasons, she has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks, consistently over a while. But she is having a tough season this season, along with the run game. The last 2 seasons, maybe a lot of people don't even realize, the last 2 seasons, Arizona had the #1 rushing offense in the league.
Right.
The last 2 seasons, and this season they are struggling. They are ranked 14th in rushing this season. But
which just changes the whole dynamic of the offense.
Exactly, and it's thrown off the passing game. Why do you think Ashley Jackson has been more, more efficient? Because they're able to have that heavy run game. People have to pay attention, and Ashley's be able to, hit all the receivers here and there. So, and their bright spot, right, is wide receiver T.J. Punk. He is having, I think, a breakout season.
It's because he was a tight end.
Look, that's the thing. Players built like tight ends or tight ends turn wide receivers, and I know you love it. Tight ends across the league are having such an excellent season this season. I don't think something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
They're in the top 10, almost across the board. Tight ends having a lot of it, right? So
if I wasn't old and washed up, just imagine what I'd still be able to do.
Yeah, but you old or and washed up.
Right.
So that's what
anyhow.
But he's having a really, really good season. He's top 5 in receptions and yards this season in the league. Yeah. Look. But they are going to have, for his stuff to improve and for his production to really mean something for the team, the resultant wins, they're going to have to get the run game going to help improve his production along with Ashley Jackson's production going forward. If they can get that done, I think they slowly start to inch closer to maybe, challenging for the division, right?
Yeah, they got that shot. Their defense is going to be, something that they're going to need to win these games as well. Statistically speaking, the defense as a whole doesn't necessarily have great numbers, but they do have one player who really kind of living up to his namesake, I should say, defensive end D.D. Sacks.
He has 8 sacks on the season. It leads the league, right? And it's crazy. Like a defensive having 8 sacks, I don't think anybody has, I don't think anybody else has 6. I think and next guy has like 5 or something. So, look, and when their defense forces turnovers, they win. And their 4 wins, their defense has forced 12 turnovers. 12 turnovers in 4 games. That's 3 per game.
Yep.
But in their 5 losses, they've only forced 5 total turnovers, which is 1 per game.
Yep.
It seems like they must create turnovers to win games and create opportunities for their offense because their offense is struggling. And if they can force turnovers, it seems like they might be able to kind of get ahead and start doing some stuff. But if they don't make them turnovers, they got to change something somewhere to be able to get them where they want to be.
Let's talk about Portland. It's been a very tough season for Portland. They really struggled out of the gate, and they just haven't been able to get any footing. Talk about that offense.
Yeah, and they've lost 5. They started out the season losing 5 straight. Then they won 2 straight games, and I thought was in pretty impressive fashion considering they lost 5 games and didn't even look nowhere near good at all, even though they had the talent. And then they lost last week. They struggled a little bit on offense, right? But they need to be, get a little bit more consistently, and they can't do that when their offense struggles consistently as it has, especially in the losses. I mean, it's not that they look like kind of so-so. They end up looking kind of bad, right? I hate to say that about any NFL team, but when they lose big, right? But when they win, they're really competitive. They're doing their stuff, right? And they're at or near the bottom in every offensive category, right? I know it's kind of it's going to take them a while to raise that average up, right? Yeah. Even though we spit off all these stats about where they rank, sometimes it's not quite true as to where they truly are and what their kind of trajectory is. I think they are improving, and their talent on offense, is there. They just got to put it all together.
Well, the defense hasn't really fared a whole lot better. They have very similar rankings near the bottom, but they do have a ton of talent, and during those 2 wins, they've shown that they can produce and win those games.
Right, and it's just unfortunate because the talent that they do have on both sides of the ball, not just the defense or the offense, but it just shows that the talent that they do have when it all comes together, on one side of the ball or both sides of the ball, it shows that what they can do, they can win and they can actually compete. So, I think they do it. Look, and I still do believe that they have a chance to make it better what they are and play spoiler, right? Some people might think, hey, them at 2-6, they don't have a shot at the playoffs because you get caught in that 6-6 log jam. It's not too good for you, right? So, at this point, hey, look, some people may count them out. They still have a shot. But I think that, they believe in themselves to be able to go out there and play spoiler for a team like Arizona.
Yeah, well, we'll find out in just a little bit. That game kicks off later tonight. But coming up next, Denver at Florida just minutes from now. 2 teams whose seasons have gone very differently. Denver, they showed a little bit of signs of hope after week 3 when they went 2-1, but they have not won a game since that time. Florida, on the flip side, they haven't. Gerald, we're in week 11 of season 22. Florida hasn't lost since week 11 of season 21.
That's insane.
That includes the championship game. They won from week 11 all the way through. In fact, they only even lost 2 games last season.
And it's kind of crazy because you think about it. Florida's like one of the only teams that actually went undefeated all season and actually rewrote and won championships and everything else.
Right.
So they're no stranger to this type of success.
Yeah, then they're doing it again. They've already clinched the East. Currently, Denver has no path for winning the Central Division. Florida, they've got a top-ranked offensive defense. Denver's on the road tonight in a hostile environment. It's going to be a tough game for Denver. Let's start with their offense.
And their offense hasn't been the best, right? They had a coaching change a couple weeks ago. Mid-season coaching changes can be a good thing, and sometimes it could be a bad thing, right? But the coaching change that they had, it is going back to their championship-winning coach in Jeremy Vega. Come back in and do stuff, but he had a lot of pieces to pick up and kind of put together, right? It just hadn't translated to wins just yet. On the positive side, 4 of their 6 losses on the whole season have been by 1 score, right? So they haven't lost by big, especially the last 3 games that they've had. They've lost them by 1 score. So, and they do have the number 4 rushing attack, along with their quarterback Gene Struthers having the number 1 completion percentage across the league. You think about those stats right there. If you say, hey, Denver's got the number 1, completion percentage quarterback in the league, and they have no more for rushing. You would think that they would be better than 2-6.
Yeah, well, but especially with their defense too. Their defense is number 9 in total defense. They've got the 5th best rushing defense. They've been in games, and they just let them slip away.
Yeah, and they let them slip away, and they are close to where I think they want to be.
Yeah.
They just haven't been able to seal it. So I think they're in the right trajectory, right? And I do think they are a lot better than their 2-6 record, right?
Yep.
I beat us, and I know we had an injury going there. Hey, but they hung tight, and they stopped us on the goal line, stopped us from going there and scoring and getting a go-ahead touchdown. So they're actually I think they're not where they want to be, but I think they're getting to where they want to be. And when you got a championship coach, at the helm, hey, look, maybe their trajectory is looking up going into next season.
Yeah, absolutely. And Florida, meanwhile, they're 8-0, but they have had to grind out the last 4 wins. They've all been 1-score games, and 3 of their last score wins were fourth-quarter comebacks from behind.
Yeah, and all that said, it's like you think, oh, hey, they're struggling. Nope, they just know how to win.
Yep.
They boast the number 1 total offense in the league, the number 2 scoring, the number 1 offense, the number 2 scoring offense, averaging over 30 points a game. They are the best in the league in scoring in the red zone at 97% of times getting in the red zone. They score points. They can seemingly move the ball at will, it seems. So, and it's like they don't care. They just move it, and it's like no panic.
Right.
I've seen it seems across the league when you look at them, they get down. It's no panic. They just going about their business. And we even had the game yesterday where they just, we thought, hey, look, you got to go for it here, but they end up punting it.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
No fear, no stress. It seems like.
Their defense, on the other hand, that's where they've been average in yards allowed, but they don't allow points. They've just been keeping points from being put on the board. Third fewest in the league.
Third fewest in the red zone, too. That's really, really key. The third fewest points they're allowing in the red zone is best in the league. The defense seemed to excel with their backs against the wall. They seem like, hey, put us against the wall. We'll show we'll end up showing you what we got. So, and guess what? Last week they proved exactly that, right? They come in there and they punted the ball away like we just talked about. And we thought, because we ended up calling that game, like, why are they punting? They need to go for it here. Guess what they do? They give it to the opponent, and then they turn around, get a pick six, and go down and score and seal the game.
That's it.
It's like no panic. I don't think Florida cares
All part of the play.
how they win a game.
Doesn't have to be pretty.
All that matters is that they just know how to win, and they get it done. W's in the win column will get you where you need to be, and they've done it with consistency from Week 11 last season to Week 11 so far this season.
Well, we're minutes away from seeing how they fare against Denver tonight. Let's do our picks real quick. I'm now 17-11 on the season. You're 15-13. You had 3 weeks in a row where you got all 3 picks right. And then last week we picked a couple of games and you lost them both.
I guess I'm all or nothing. I either going to win them all or lose them all.
You picked Indianapolis and Charleston last week. I picked Vancouver, Fort Worth. Vancouver and Fort Worth both won for me. Although, even though Fort Worth finally didn't let me down, they still kind of did because I really wanted them to lose because we're trying to win the South over here.
Yeah, I'm going to let everybody know a secret. I think you picked them to lose. I think you thought it was going to keep working, but then it didn't.
It's a psychological thing.
It backfired. I guess it's a bittersweet.
Never again. Let's do our picks for this week. Let's start with Alamo City at Tulsa. Who do you got?
I got Alamo City. I think, the 3 wins in a row, they're starting to look like the team that they were last season when they won a gazillion games, it seemed like, and was, a top 3 seed going into the playoffs. So I think Alamo City takes it at Tulsa.
I'm not picking the South anymore, Gerald. I'm not doing it. Tulsa, baby, let's go. They're going to get Phoenix Jones involved, I think, and then Gabriel Manning is still Gabriel Manning. Did you see that touchdown catch he had in the back of the end zone last week?
I sure did.
That was ridiculous. You pair that with a red-hot Phoenix Jones. His legs are fresh. Let's get him going. I think he gets the win over Alamo City. Arizona at Portland. You got a hot take, man.
I do have a hot take here. Now, this is the thing. When Arizona has lost in their shutouts, they have done it on the road. They have not played very well on the road. I'm picking Portland. I think they get it done. I think they have, the will to do it. They have no quit. They have the pride, and I think they show Arizona what they're actually capable of, and I think they come away with the win at home.
Well, I think that Eddie Gage and the Scorpions are going to learn from their mistakes where they have lost those games on the road and been shut out. They're not going to get shut out. Not only do I think they're not going to get shut out, I think they're going to win. I think they're going to take this road game. They're going to go into Portland. They're going to get that win. My pick is Arizona. One final game, Denver at Florida coming up next. Who do you got?
Florida's undefeated, like we just mentioned. They just know how to win.
They do.
I just think they find a way to win. They don't even have to find a way to win. They have such great coaching staffs and such great players and Hall of Fame players all up and down the roster. I just think they're going to win, and I just think it's going to be by 2 scores.
See, I differ a little. I think Denver's going to make it close. I think they're going to give Florida a run for their money. You mentioned, they've got a great quarterback. They've got a great running game. They've got a great rushing defense. I think they make it difficult for Florida, but I think Florida still gets it done. Like you said, they were in Week 11. They haven't won since the last time we had a Week 11 last season. So it's going to be hard to overcome that. I think Florida gets it done. So that's it. That's our picks for this week. We'll see where we fare as we jump into next week's weekly kickoff show. But for Week 11, that's all that we have time for. I'm Mike Daggs. He is Gerald Smith. Thanks for joining us for the Matt Willson weekly kickoff show. Denver at Florida is moments away. Don't go anywhere. It kicks off right after this. Stay with us.